had existed for centuries. This forest, consumed by eternal shadow, held secrets that no one dared to uncover. It was said that its trees were so tall and dense that sunlight could not penetrate their canopies, and strange sounds and whispers accompanied anyone who dared to step onto its territory. Many had attempted to explore the forest, but few returned. Those who made it back told frightening tales of creatures beyond description, strange mirages, and an overwhelming sense of despair that followed them until they reached the edge of the forest. The villagers from nearby settlements kept their distance from the forest's borders, and only the most daring adventurers risked entering this world of darkness and mystery. The stranger's arrival. One evening, a stranger arrived in the village at the edge of the dark forest. His face was hidden under a hood, and his steps were light but confident. No one knew who he was or where he came from, but there was a determination in his eyes that unsettled the locals. He stopped at the only tavern, rented a room, and sat by the fire without saying a word. The villagers began to whisper among themselves. Some recognized him as the legendary demon hunter who had sworn to destroy any evil in his path. Others believed he was part of the forest itself, its dark messenger. Soon, one of the village elders, Ryu, approached the stranger and sat down beside him. "Do you know what lies within the dark forest?" he asked quietly, looking at the stranger. The stranger raised his gaze, his eyes flashing with a green light. "I am here to find what is hidden in the heart of the forest," he replied, "and I do not fear what awaits there." Into the depths. The next day, the stranger, whom the villagers simply called the hunter, headed toward the forest's edge. He was dressed in leather armor adorned with magical symbols and armed with a long sword with a hilt covered in strange inscriptions. Several amulets hung from his belt, each emitting a faint glow barely noticeable in the misty morning. The forest greeted him with darkness and silence. The hunter stepped forward without looking back. With each step, the shadows grew thicker and the silence more oppressive. It seemed that the air itself thickened, becoming heavy and cold, filling the heart with a strange sense of dread. However, the hunter did not stop. He walked further, observing and listening to every rustle. Suddenly, a cry rang out, and from the darkness leapt a creature that could not be described as earthly. It resembled a wolf, but its eyes blazed with green fire, and its body was covered in long, spiky fur. The creature lunged at the hunter, but he was ready. The hunter dodged, and in an instant the sword was in his hands. He struck, and the creature let out a piercing screech, vanishing in a cloud of black smoke. The forest once again fell into silence, but now that silence was filled with anticipation. The encounter with the shadow. Soon, the hunter reached the place where, according to legend, the darkest part of the forest began, the heart of darkness. The trees here were even taller and denser, and the darkness became almost tangible. In the center of this gloomy clearing stood an ancient tree that seemed alive, its roots writhing and its bark glowing with a sinister light. The hunter knew that this tree was not just a plant. It was part of something much larger, and what he sought was hidden nearby. But suddenly, a figure appeared from the shadows, resembling a human, but with black eyes and a face devoid of emotion. "You have come for something that does not belong to you," the shadow said, its voice like the rustling of leaves. "You do not know what you are dealing with." The hunter did not respond. He only tightened his grip on the sword. Inside him grew the feeling that a battle awaited,